Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where today I want to talk about a subject for tech fans who are also concerned parents. Because the boom of the internet has made parenting in the millennial age no easy task. And while some are concerned that technology is only worsening the issue, it is safe to say that artificial intelligence, when used responsibly, can actually empower parents to help them keep their kids safe online. And Tal Gutman, CEO and co-founder of parental awareness app Jiminy, is joining me on the podcast today to delve a little bit further into how advanced technology is enabling parents to preview into their children's lives responsibly while also balancing their privacy. It's a tricky balance, but I think these guys have got it right. So come with me all the way to Tel Aviv in Israel so we can speak with Tal Gutman to talk about parenting in the age of artificial intelligence and how they're hard at work at making better grown-ups. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Tal. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Hello, Neil. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name is Tal Gutman. I'm 40, almost 41. I live in Tel Aviv. I have 2 kids, and I'm married. I studied history at school, at uni, but I've been doing tech since I was maybe 13 or 14. I got my first job as a product manager at 16, and I've been the co-founder and CEO of Jiminy since 2017. Most of my career has been going back and forth between startups and intelligence organizations here in Israel. Israel is a very vibrant intelligence community. And so I've been privileged to both serve in really interesting places like Unit 8200, which is like GCHQ or NSA, but also worked for some really interesting startups. So when in Israel, it's a compulsory military service between 18 and 21 for men. And then when I got out, I was 21, I went to work. This was like mid-2000s. I went to work for a startup, and my first boss there was Uri Levine, who later went on to found Waze. It was really funny because my memory of him is this like wise and Jedi master. And now, when I look back, I realize that he was 35.
Wow.
But that's an interesting experience.
A great story as well. And of course, in today's digital age, we're seeing constant headlines about how AI is being used in all sorts of different capacities now to just help humans better understand the world that we live in. But can you tell me more about the story behind why you wanted to use artificial intelligence to help us better understand our children, especially in this age of technology?
So this story has a few threads in it. The first is your classical, underserved market. So the story that we usually tell when we talk about Jiminy is children get their first phone between 8 and 10, and then they just disappear. They drop off the face of the earth for parents. They disappear into this never land where there's no grown-ups. They could be sitting in the living room, but parents have no idea what's going on with them. And the knee-jerk reaction that most parents and people have is try to control this. But when we looked at the space, most of the apps in the space, what they were doing was try to limit screen time or limit access to specific content. And we felt that was very, very high friction with the children. Nobody likes to be controlled. And what we thought that we would rather have, both as children and as parents, is a tool that can sort of help us as a family navigate a child's digital life. Think of it like training wheels for a child's first phone. So the transition from having no phone to having a phone is really, really big. And most parents don't necessarily know like the do's and the don'ts. And we wanted to guide them through it. So that's one, and by guiding them through it, what we want to do is both sort of highlight more dangerous or concerning stuff. And that includes, things like bullying and harassment and sexting and suicide. but also try to highlight the more the funner parts of a child's digital life. So, if a child is really into this game, and it's a big part of his life. And when I say child, by the way, I imagine like 10 and 11-year-olds, not the 16-year-olds. So let's say that your child is playing this new game and he's super, super into it. He's investing hours in it. But you can have, and he's achieved something and he's super proud and he's walking around with a sense of accomplishment. But there's a chance that you as a parent would never know about this because it's not in your radar to ask. So I wanted to be there as the helping the parents navigate and be able to highlight this. The parents say, listen, your child is really into this game. Here's what you need to know. Here's how you can play together, and you can become a bigger part of your child's life. So that's thread number one, to answer your AI question. Thread number two was, so I don't know if you have kids, but when my first child was born about 7 years ago, it was a huge leap for me. It was like, oh my God, wow. It was like an absolute wow moment. And one of the strongest feelings that I had was that from time to time, I would, find myself in the situation where I don't know what to do, and I would look for the responsible adult in the room, and then, that would be me. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? There's no one to ask, there's no one to lean on, and sure, you could talk to your friends or your parents, but, at the end of the day, it was you. By the way, it's a very similar feeling that, I have as a founder of a startup. Most of the times, you have your co-founder maybe, but at the end of the day, you're the responsible adult. And one of the interesting things is that we're living this time where there's data for everything. So if, I am a family and I want to understand what resort in like Spain is the best for me, I can go to TripAdvisor or Booking or any of those websites and have really, deep and quantified data about, how much of a match that is like a resort is for me. So we have data for shopping, for navigation, for tourism, but there's no data for parenting. So it's this literally universal problem that is maybe the toughest challenge that we as humans are facing. But in the end of the day, there's no data for parenting. And so the second thread in the story is, can we use technology not just to control things? So if you don't think controlling is the right thing, can we use technology to give parents superpowers? And we thought that was an interesting take, because if you look at like what AI is used for, a lot of it is used not for like personal growth and empowerment, but rather to, how do I better predict which kind of person you are so I can better serve you an ad? And what we want to do is sort of turn that wheel around. We want AI to work for you as a parent. And so what we did is that we combined these two things, and we started Jiminy.
Fantastic story. So you got this idea, but then what problems did you set out to solve, and then how does it work? Can you just talk me through some of the process then?
Sure. So Jiminy is a tool that is supposed to help parents navigate their children's digital lives, and instruct them and help them. Basically our goal is to help parents make better grown-ups, to raise healthy, happy kids in the digital age. And the way it works is you install an app on the child's phone, and Jiminy monitors about 70 different things on the phone. So this could be messaging or browsing, usage, location, media, and it takes all this data in. It does not share it with the parents or with anyone else, and it analyzes it, and it transforms it into what we call stories. So stories are the basic unit of interaction for parents. These could be heads up. So if your daughter downloaded and installed 4 diet apps in a week, then you as a parent would probably want to know about it. If your child is, surfed a porn site or was harassed, or if your daughter was harassed, if your child's on a game binge, if they're being bullied or talking about weed, if they were solicited for personal information. There's this wealth of risk indicators that we cover. And if that happens, parents get a notification, and they also get a what should I do? So one of Jiminy's co-founders, Dr. Oren Shefet, is Israeli-born but an American clinical psychologist. And when we founded Jiminy, I thought that if I was a parent to a 10-year-old girl and an app would have just informed me that someone was harassing my daughter online, I'm not sure that I would have known how to have this conversation. And so we include a what should I do? And what we do, in addition to having these very well thought of guides and tips, we benchmark if they worked. We circle back to parents and are like, did you try what we did? And did it work? Or we look at the data and see if if there's a change in the behavior. And the goal, our long-term mission is to have enough data so to say, here's what happened, here's what I suggest. Oh, and 70% of parents who tried this, it worked for them. And that is something that doesn't exist today. So as I said before, there's no data for parenting. The other aspects of Jiminy are, as I said before, looking at a larger view of what it means to be like a child online, what it means to have a digital life. So this could be, just giving parents these glimpses into what the child is going through. So this could be like, here's your child's favorite emoji. Here's his favorite games of the week. Here are people who are meaningful in his life. If the child is an outlier in, how many photos he or she is taking with their phone camera, we have a story that says, maybe your child is a photographer, and here's a way to develop that hobby with them together. A lot of the things that we do almost everything that we do is not for spying. It's for creating engagement with and communication with the children. Many times we will obfuscate information and hold back information from the parents because we want to make sure that they talk to their children in order to promote conversation. And one of the aspects that is interesting is that from day one, we thought of, how do I do all this while still respecting my child's privacy? So, one of the questions that we ask ourselves is, how do I make sure that I'm respectful of the child's privacy? And I'll give an example. One of our competitors, whom I shall not name, if you install their app on a child's phone and then the child goes on and surfs porn, then parents receive an alert, and we do that as well. But in their case, the parents also receive a link to the specific video the child surfed. And so if you're 13, gay, and living in a very, very conservative place, then there's a chance that you've just been outed by software. And that's a situation that we, in a very dedicated manner, try to avoid. We don't do these things. We respect children's privacy as much as we can. It's a balancing act because parents need to know certain things as well. But when you install Jiminy on a child's phone, there's a part on our website that's for children, and it's got this frowny face, and the headline says, "Don't panic." And so a lot of times when people say that Jiminy is might be too invasive, they imagine this world where children are given phones and nothing happens. But what happens in reality is that if you're a child, and again, our median age is 11. When you're a child and you're given a phone, that usually comes with some sort of contract between you and your parents. And the parents say, listen, you get a phone, but we get the right to review it. And a lot of parents do that. So they take the phone, they read the messages, they look at the content. We have this promise that we make to children and that is that we don't let mom and dad read their messages. You don't let mom and dad see the websites they're browsing or the photos they're taking or the videos they're taking. So in a certain sense, it's actually a better deal for children in terms of privacy.
And I absolutely love that angle that you've got there, because like you say, it's not about spying at all and all about engaging with your children, especially when they're spending hours at a time on these devices. And from the kind of feedback that you've received from parents, do you have any examples that will just help everyone listening understand how Jiminy would possibly work in their world too?
Sure. So I'll share one of my favorite Jiminy stories. Like, I think this is my favorite feature. So not all chat applications are created equal. There are some that are more safe and age appropriate than others. So obviously, you could send bad messages through any app, but if you look at apps like Kik, for example, then Kik is very popular in the States. I think less so in Europe, and definitely not in Israel. But so Kik is, I'm going to say this in a very polite way, as horrible for children. So if you, of all the true online predators that we've detected and encountered, most of them were on Kik. And the reason for this is that Kik has a built-in open group discovery mechanism. So most chat apps today have, the ability to group chat, but you have to find the links somewhere and in order to join the group. If you install Kik and you open Kik, then you have this menu that says, here's a group of here's a selection of group chats that you can join, and then you have this chat that says teens 13 and up chatting, and then you have a bunch of hopefully teens in the same chat room, and they're all strangers, and nothing good really happens in these chat rooms. So it's not that necessarily horrible things happen there all the time, but it's risky, and so you have a lot of the gateway drug to sexting is often a version of Truth or Dare games, an online version of Truth or Dare games that is played in these groups. That might include some solicitation for nude pics, et cetera, et cetera. So, and what we do is that Jiminy detects when a child enters one of these groups, and then it sort of informs the parents, says, listen, nothing bad has happened. Your child is active or was active in an open group. Nothing bad happened there necessarily, but it's not a great place to hang out on the internet. Here's a great way of chatting with him and her and sort of trying to understand together what's healthy and beneficial and what is not, and try to figure out together whether this is a good place to hang out or not. And if so, what are the safety rules that we have to keep reminding ourselves of, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the reason I love this feature is because I find that it's very empowering for parents. It's not, me, a piece of software, Jiminy, saying, I will never replace you as a parent with a, robotic voice. It's us giving parents the, what they need to know and the awareness to be parents just on the phone as well. If you knew that your daughter was hanging out in a bad neighborhood in your city, then it would be your parental responsibility to talk to her about it, right? But it's very easy to miss these things because it's happened. It might be happening in your living room, but it's happening on the small, tiny screen that parents are not aware of. And sort of the ability to bring this into their awareness with the cultural context that they might not necessarily know, and a helpful guide on how to have a conversation. I personally love that. I think that's really, really powerful.
And of course, the use of AI in parenting might make some people listening feel a little uncomfortable, but that's probably down to too many science fiction movies that they've watched. So what kind of feedback have you received from parents? Do you get to hear those stories?
Yes. So we get a lot of feedback so when you say AI for parenting, you're right. That's a trigger word. And what it triggers in us is this vision of, robots replacing humans in raising children. This is not what we're about. We're about using AI to either detect things that parents might have very easily missed, and having them intervene could be very substantial for children, and in the long run, using it to help parents figure out what might be a best coping mechanism or strategy for them. So, children start sexting really, really, really early. So we recently published a report that shows that by age 10, about 15% of children send or receive a sexual message. That's insane. Yeah. And again, these are things that are very easy for parents to miss because these messages can be deleted. Because sometimes, in order to really catch them, parents have to be very diligent in how they monitor and read all their children's text messages. And so that's an example of where we use AI. We use AI to detect sexting and alert parents so that they can have the right conversation with their children. So again, this is not AI replacing parents in growing their children. This is AI giving parents these superpowers to help them become better parents.
And one of the things that I love about what you've created here is that you're protecting kids, but like we said earlier, without sacrificing their privacy. I mean, was that something that was incredibly important to you right from the outset?
It was. I originally had the idea for Jiminy about a few years before I started it. And one of the reasons was that I didn't go for it was that I couldn't figure out how to make the product work without doing things that would make me feel bad when I look at myself in the mirror. And today, again, it's a balancing act. Sometimes this balancing act, so we have parents who are writing us. So the issue of privacy for children is really, really contested. If you talk to parents, then it's like a 50-50 split between their parents who would say that Jiminy is way too intrusive, and then there are parents who are like, privacy for my children? No. My children get no privacy. And then this thing where we don't allow parents to read their children's messages. There are parents who freak out at this. They're like, what do you mean? I am paying you. What do you mean I can't read my children's messages? And the first few times it was kind of hard, but then, what we've managed, and and some of these are just parents who are really into, being angry, but for parents who wrote this as an invasion of open dialogue, what we've done is we try to explain that if we let them read their children's messages, it would probably be just create a lot of friction with the children, and that would create an unfriendly environment at home. And it's actually, we were like, okay, you don't really want to read your children's messages. You want to make sure that they're safe. What are you concerned with? And let's see if we can help you there.
Like we were discussing earlier in the conversation now, we are becoming increasingly aware of online privacy. So can you expand on how Jimmy spots those bad things and keeps kids' data safe, or the technology behind that?
The issue of online privacy is actually quite big. So one of the things that we try to explain very explicitly is that Jiminy is, if you look at like the list of things that Jiminy monitors on the phone, it seems very intrusive. But what we're trying to communicate is that, yes, I'm very intrusive, but I work for you. I work for you, the parent. I work for you, the family. I don't sell your data to advertisers. I don't, this is like, this sort of rolls back to the beginning of the conversation where we talked about, what is AI used for? And we feel very good about the fact that we are taking all this data and using all these smart algorithms, but we're doing it for our clients and for our users, not for this third party. And obviously, when dealing with children's privacy, that has a price for us. So part of that price is parents who are angry because they can't read their children's messages. Part of it is also setting the bar very high in terms of what our algorithms look like. So if you think about it, not sharing messages with parents means that when I alert parents at things like, sexting or bullying or suicide, and I don't include the original materials, I don't include the original messages, I need to be very, very, very sure that what I am telling parents is actually happening. So my precision needs to be really high, because otherwise I have just, might have created this fairly big shitstorm in a family's life because they think that their child is in some kind of big trouble when they're not. So the standards to which I have to hold myself in terms of false positives are incredibly high, and that just means that it's harder, and we have to train our algorithms better and make sure that our precision is up to par.
So for anybody listening that's going to be interested in checking this out, can you just walk me through how to get up and running with Jiminy, and also how much it's going to cost parents as well?
Jiminy is currently available for Android, both for parents, both parents and children. You could have an Android phone. We are working on an iPhone version. The plans are between $3.99 to $5.99 a month, depending on if it's annual or monthly. You download it from the Google Play, install it on your phone and on your child's phone, and you're ready to go. There's a 2-week free trial where you can test it out.
Excellent. Well, before I let you go, could I just ask that you remind everyone listening where they can find you online, and also contact your team if they are left with any questions.
Sure. So our website is www.jiminy.me, and you can look for Jiminy on Google Play, and feel free to reach out to us. hello@jiminy.me. We'll be happy to answer any question.
Fantastic. Well, like I said earlier on in the episode, I really love how you use technology here, but not to spy, but to engage with your children, have a better understanding of exactly what they're doing while they're face down in their devices, and talk to them appropriately. I think it's so important. And like you said at the very beginning, we just don't know at the moment what they're doing. So thanks so much for taking the time to come and speak with me today.
Okay, thank you so much for having me.
What a great idea, especially when you look beyond what it promises to do, because your kids' data is encrypted and secured with military-grade tech to make sure that it never leaks. Plus, they only use the data to protect your children and will never sell it to anyone, which is all great. So ultimately, it seems that it's just you, your kids, and the clever tech that opens the door onto their lives, just enough for you to see inside, but in a way that respects their privacy. And I think that final point is so crucial. But for any concerned techie parents out there, over to you. I mean, will you be trying Jiminy out? Do you have something to add to today's conversation? Whatever it is, please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. All my social channels is @NeilC.Hughes. And my website is techblogwriter.co.uk. I'm nice and easy to get hold of. But right now, it's time for my afternoon reboot. Snooze, an hour digital detox, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to walk away from my devices and walk off into the sunset before meeting you back here, same time tomorrow. So thanks for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.